Happy Rosh Chodesh, everybody. So we're now in the month of Cheshvan. Cheshvan is the month that comes after all the great holidays. We just finished all the holidays and now we're in the next month. Okay, so let me tell you a little story. This is a story about Reb Wolf Kitzkis, who was a student of the Baal Shem Tov. Does anyone know who Baal Shem Tov is? The Baal Shem Tov lived in the middle 1700s. Actually, no, the early 1700s. 16. What he was born in like 1680 something.
1680
until 1745, right? So the Baal Shem Tov was the one who started the Hasidic movement, and he had a student whose name was Reb Wolf, and Reb Wolf was very, very poor. He really didn't have much money, and his daughter was ready to get married. You know, in those days when the girls had to get married, you had to come up with a dowry, and that time the dowry was about 2,000 gulden. I don't know what the amount is now, but it's a very small amount. But he didn't even have that, and he couldn't marry off his daughter. So he came to the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov says, "You know, it's time to marry off your daughter." He says, "But I don't have the money." He says, "Forget it. Just go and look for a guy for your daughter." So he sent a messenger to another city, one of these big cities, and he looked around, and finally he found this most amazing boy. The parents were very wealthy, and the boy was very learned. An amazing shidduch. So the father of the chassan writes a letter to Reb Wolf and says, "You know, we understand that you promised 2,000 gulden. Can you send the money?" So what happens? Reb Wolf, does he have the money? No. So what is he going to do? So he goes to Baal Shem Tov. He says, "Baal Shem Tov, look, you told me I should make a shidduch, and I don't have the money." He says, "Don't worry. Write a letter to this guy and tell him, the chassan's father, the groom's father, and tell him that when he comes to the wedding, you'll have the money for him." So he shouldn't worry. I said, "Okay, fine." So months pass, and they're getting ready for the wedding. And of course, Reb Wolf doesn't even have money to make a wedding. Never mind, give 2,000 gulden. So he doesn't know what to do. So he comes to Baal Shem Tov. What am I going to do? I still didn't prepare the wedding yet. And these guys are coming. Everyone's coming for the wedding in a couple of weeks. Baal Shem Tov says, "Don't worry. Everything will be fine." He says, "You tell Reb Wolf, you tell this other guy who is the father of the chassan that he should come a little bit earlier and meet with the Baal Shem Tov first, and then we'll make the wedding." So he writes a letter to this father of the chassan. He says, "Oh, really? You're a student of the Baal Shem Tov. I'm going to come meet the Baal Shem Tov." He was very excited. He gathered together all his horses, and he's coming along, and on his way, he meets another guy. He says, "Where are you going?" He says, "I'm going to the Baal Shem Tov." He goes, "You know what? I'm going to go with you." He says, "Really?" He says, "Yeah, I need to speak to the Baal Shem Tov too." So they're both coming to the Baal Shem Tov. And they come to the Baal Shem Tov. And the Baal Shem Tov says to him, he says, "Can you tell me what's going on? I want to tell you a story." Baal Shem Tov says, "I'm going to tell you a story." And the Baal Shem Tov starts telling a story that some guy was in the forest who was very wealthy. He was just coming back from the marketplace, and he had all these amazing things that he had just bought. And he's coming through the forest, and who does he meet? A bandit that wants to steal all his stuff. And he says, "Of course, your money or your life." And he says, "Okay, fine, take all my money." And he says, "You know what? I want to kill you also because, you know, if I take your money and someone finds out who I am, they'll kill me. So I want to kill you first." He says, "You know what? Just a minute. I want to go and pray to my God for 5 minutes, and then you can kill me." So he goes out there, he prays to his God for 5 minutes, he says, "Look, God," he says, "if you rescue me from this mission, I'm going to give 10% of all my money to tzedakah." He says, "Okay." He stops for a minute, and all of a sudden the guard from that forest is passing by and releases him. And takes the bandit and ties him up and brings him to the prison. It's like a miracle, amazing miracle. He says, you know what? He goes further, goes home. He tells his wife, he tells his family, everybody's so happy, and he forgets to give the 10%, of course. And all of a sudden, the guy who's standing there next to this groom's father says, you know what, that's me. I'm the guy who forgot to give the 10%. Because remember, the Baal Shem Tov was telling the story. I'm the guy who forgot to give the 10%. So the Baal Shem Tov says, wait a second. How much is 10% of all your money? He says about 4,000 gulden. So he says, give it to this Kala, this poor Kala, and they're going to make a wedding, and he'll have $2,000 dowry, and everything will be fine. And guess what? So now, the guy gets what? He has money to make the wedding. Yeah. And this is the Baal Shem Tov story. Anyhow, but the interesting thing is that a lot of times we promise God a million things. We say, God, we're going to give you X, Y, and Z if you help us. And 5 minutes from now you forget. I remember that funny story. A lady says, you know, God, if you help me find a parking spot, I'm gonna do something amazing for somebody else. And all of a sudden, within 2 minutes, she finds the parking spot. She goes, forget it, God! I found the parking spot! Anyhow, but I thought that was funny because here we have the same thing that we all do. We all do that. We just came from the month of Tishrei. We just came from the month of Tishrei. This is the month that we have Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, and Simchat Torah, and all the beautiful holidays. And we're leaving that, and then what are we going to do? We promise God, I promise I'm going to be good for the rest of the year. I'll do anything you want. And then we leave this month, and we forget about all the great things. Right? Agreed. Anyhow, so what's this idea of Tishrei, this month? Rosh Hashanah. What's Rosh Hashanah? Rosh Hashanah is making God the king, right? We dip apple into honey because we want to have a sweet year. Why? Because that's renewal. We're renewing something. We're renewing all our vows. We're saying, God, this year I'm going to do better. Then you have Yom Kippur. What's Yom Kippur? Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year. It's sanctity. We learn this idea how to be holy. How we are Kadosh. We are a holy nation. And we will only do good. And God judges us, and we judge ourselves and say, you know what? This year I'm going to do everything good. That's Yom Kippur. Then what do we have? Then we have Sukkot. What's Sukkot? Sukkot is the idea of having this big sukkah over our heads, and everybody gathers together, and this is the idea of unity. Each one of us are all together as one. Not just that we're together, but we're happy together. Happy. The key word is happy. Sukkot, we take away what? We take away the idea of happiness. And then we get to the holiday that we dance with the Torah. Simchat Torah. What is Simchat Torah? We're so happy. We're in ecstasy. We're on the highest, happiest level. We're so excited. Wow, this is amazing. Dancing with the Torah, having such a good time. Where do we get now? Now what happens? We're all the way to the top. We have to take all of this stuff that we got this month and we have to internalize it. Just like when you take a straw, right? A straw, and you're drinking your drink. What's happening? You're internalizing your drink. The same thing we have to internalize the month of Tishrei when we get to the next month, which is Cheshvan, that has no holidays. We have to internalize all of that. Then, this year, there's a third day. We had Shmini Atzeret, Simchas Torah, and the third day was what?
Where?
This year. No, after Simchat Torah, what happened? What was the next day after Simchat Torah this year? Shabbos. Yeah. We had Shabbos this year right away. Shabbos Bereshit. What's Bereshit? In the beginning. This is our beginning again. Here we start all over again. We start with Shabbos Bereshit. What's the idea of Shabbos? Shabbos is holy. 7 days of the week. We have to take Shabbos and bring it into the 7 days of the week. That's how we internalize Shabbos. The same thing this month that we're coming to, which is Rosh Chodesh, Cheshvan, that we're coming to, we have to take all the previous month of Tishrei. Because Tishrei, we know if we turn around the word Tishrei, what are we going to get? Take the word Tishrei and we get Reshit.
What is
Beginning. So again, this is our beginnings. Everything is started with our beginnings. So we have Tishrei for the rest of the year. Shabbos for the rest of the week, right? We have to internalize all of that. So, we get this energy from this month, and then it goes to the Yaakov Halach Lidarko. Actually, it's interesting that the Baal Shem Tov used this verse, which was a verse in I believe it's Perek Lamed Bet, Pasuk Bet, or something like that, in the Torah. It talks about Yaakov, when Yaakov was leaving Lavan's house, it says, the Yaakov Halach Lidarko. Yaakov is going on his way. It also means for us what? That Yaakov, who is Yaakov? The Jewish people. Halach Lidarko, going on his way. We are going on our way. We just finished what? Tishrei. Now we need to get to the rest of the year. We need to go on our way. Is it too low? Okay, so after raising his family, he needs to get energy to go on. Just like the Jewish people now, every single person in this world needs to take from the month of Tishrei all this good stuff that we just received, internalize it, and go on to the next month, which is the month of Cheshvan. Right. Also, it's interesting that 50 years ago, this year, does anybody know what happened 50 years ago?
50?
Yes. Think about 50 years ago. What would be 50 years ago?
50.
50 years ago. What year would be 50 years ago? We are in 2017. What would be 50 years ago? 19 what? 67. Six-Day War. Very good. 1967 was the Six-Day War. It was in June, right, of 1967. So it's interesting that the Lubavitcher Rebbe, in 1967, actually not in 1967, but many years later, spoke about, actually it was in 1967, and it was right after the Six-Day War, during Parshas Bereshis, just like it is now. And he spoke about what? What did he speak about? He spoke about this idea of the Six-Day War, that the Six-Day War is very special, not just the land, but it's very special because this is like the time of Mashiach, because all these miracles were happening during the Six-Day War. He called it like the time of the Shofar Gadol, like the Shofar of Mashiach. So he said that the Six-Day War was like the call of Mashiach. And it said why? Because it says Uvohu ha'ovdim me'eretz Asher, that all the lost people come from Asher, and Nidachim means the people who were beat up come from Mitzrayim, from Egypt. What's the difference between people who are lost and people who are beat up? What happened when the Jewish people were in Russia and in Poland and all over Europe in the old days? What would happen to them by the non-Jews? There's a lot of pogroms, right? Persecution, pogroms. So those are the people who got hurt, right? But in America, we have freedom. But what happens to the Jews in America? They intermarry and they get lost. They're gone. They disappear. Children are not Jewish. Grandchildren are not Jewish. Great-grandchildren are not Jewish. It's a problem. People get lost. They're gone. They disappear. So there's a difference. So it's interesting to see that all these kinds of people will come back when Mashiach comes. The lost Jews, and what else? And the hurt Jews. All those Jews will come back. Will come back for Mashiach. And this is what the Rebbe spoke about in 1967 when the war lasted. But then after that, of course, we had problems later because we gave back the land, which was the other mistake, or whatever it is. But this is the beginning of the idea of Mashiach. Okay. So now, we go through two portions of Torah. We come through first Bereshit, right? Bereshit, which what did God say to Adam when he sinned? What did he tell him? What were the words he used when Adam sinned? The first thing he said to him was what? Brahma, what did he say the first words he said to him? Adam. Before that, what did God say to Adam after he sinned? What were the first words? Ayako, where are you? Very good. Where are you?
As if he didn't know.
Right, but he knew. What was he trying to say? Adam, what's your mission now? Same thing he's telling us in this month. We're going out of Tishrei. God says, Ayako, where is all of you? What is your mission now? What are you going to take from this beautiful month and bring into the next year? What are we going to do? Ayaka. And then it says, what was the punishment of Adam? What was Adam's
Get out
punishment?
from the garden.
Bezeas hapecha tochal. He will eat with the sweat of his brow. In other words, he has to work hard in this world to be able to get good. And what does the woman have to do?
Suffer when given good.
Right. The atzave teldu banim. She is going to have a punishment of having a difficult pregnancy and difficult birth. In other words, we're coming from this Bereshit to the problems. We've just gone through all the excitement, all the happiness. We're coming into our world, our problem world. Not so easy. World is not easy. Sometimes we have different problems in different everyday life. Then we come to Noah. What happened at the beginning of Noah? The beginning of the parsha of Noah, what happened? What were the people doing? Why were they destroyed?
They were
sinning.
And
They were stealing from each other, and they were mean to each other, and they were sinning. Right, exactly. But they were stealing mostly. Most idea was stealing. In other words, they didn't have respect for each other. They were stealing from each other. They were killing each other. They were doing things against God, right? Adultery, right. Very, very bad stuff. Anyhow. But the idea is, this is the generation that does difficult things. For us, it's very difficult. So what is God is saying? Here I'm going to bring what? What was God bringing?
God.
What was God bringing for Noah at Noah's time? What did he bring? A flood, right?
I said.
He bring a flood. Why did he bring a flood? Because what's the flood waters? What is the raging waters in our lives?
Cleaning.
cleansing.
It's cleansing, but it's also the raging waters is the difficulty that we have in making money, called tirdos haparnasa, difficulty for people to make a living. This is our flood. It's raging all around us. It's very difficult for us. And what does God say to Noah? Bo el hateva. Come into the
Ship.
teva. What is a teva? Teva is not only, but how do you say teva in Hebrew is a word? Not only an ark, but it also means a word. Come into the words of what?
Mitzvah.
Torah, learning Torah, and praying. The words of prayer and learning. God says how you can protect yourself from difficulty in parnasa. Come and study first. Get up in the morning, study something before. Have a little bit of faith. Once you start your day with a little bit of faith, what happens after that? It's easier for you. Then you say, you know what? I trust that everything that's going to happen today, it's in God's hands. I don't have to worry. It's interesting that I was just reading something about, remember this book that came out like years ago about, what is it called? Positive thinking. What is that book called again?
Adachan.
No, not Adahan. No. It's a non-Jewish concept.
About what?
You know, that you look at something and you say, these are my goals, and if I think those are my goals, everything's going to be fine.
Is it hay?
Maybe lose the hay. What's the name of the book? Do you remember?
The same given Miriam Adachan in Jewish version.
Right. But anyhow, whatever the case is. Positive thinking. So in other words, the idea is that if you think positive, the something. I forgot what it's called. Anyhow, whatever. Doesn't matter. Whatever you think positive, you look at things and you set goals and you say, this is what's going to happen, it's going to happen. So the same thing. You get up in the morning and you say, I'm going to leave it all to God. It's not a very difficult thing. Everything's going to be fine. It's going to be fine at the end. Actually, according to it's interesting that it's trach gut v'zayin gut. Think good and it'll be good. This is what we always say, so that it'll be more positive. Anyway, interesting thing is coming into the new, coming out of the whole prayer that we just did, coming into the new what?
In
the new month, right? Coming into the new month for the whole year. So here we had going into the Teva, and now going out of the Teva. Same in a Teva. Let's go out of the Teva. So what happens when we go out of the Teva? It's just like we are starting our life anew. We just finished. What did we do? What was in the Teva? There was a tzohar. There was a luminary, right? An illumination that kept the light. A tzohar. Tzohar. That's the light that's on top of the Teva that kept the light in the Teva. And what happened after that? What did God show Noach at the end after he came out?
The darkness.
No, what did he show him? He showed him something, a sign. What was the sign? Rainbow.
Rainbow.
Good, very good. He showed him a rainbow.
Between people.
What's a rainbow? What is a
It
rainbow?
never will be repeated.
Yeah, but what is a rainbow? How does it make a rainbow? No, how does a rainbow made? By water particles, right? It's a reflection of the water. So this is the reflection of what we do, is a rainbow. In other words, when we do something in the month of Tishrei, we just finished praying and do all this. And this has to reflect for what? For the rest of the year. So that's the idea of the rainbow. So here we're coming...
But is it good, rainbow?
Rainbow is not a very good sign per se, because it means that God is upset with the world. But you can say it's a good thing because he's not destroying the world.
Yeah.
So it has its good and its bad. So your mission now, what is the mission now? To make a place for God down here after we finish with Tishrei. The same thing when children are young. What do we do for those children? We teach them. We educate them, so that they can go out of the Teva and go on their own. Same thing, Tishrei, we learn so much so that we can go on our own and go throughout the rest of the year. Okay, so King Solomon was very wise, of course. And he said, Ein chadash tachas hashemesh. There's nothing new under the sun. How is that possible? There's nothing new? But guess what, guys? Above the sun there is new. Under the sun, there's nothing new. But if we put ourselves above the sun, in other words, we do things that are not natural, then what happens?
Miracle.
Then miracles happen for us, right? So this is the idea that we need to go above and make a new world for us. Interesting thing is there's a story that's going around on Facebook or maybe on WhatsApp. An amazing, amazing story about a woman during Simchas Torah. So this woman, it's funny because we didn't know when the story happened. The story happened to have happened 21 years ago. But now it was going through. It was a woman writing a letter. She was writing a letter of thanks to the Chabad rabbi from her area that she was living. And she was saying, thank you so much. Why? Her son was 9 years old, and she was home. She was in the 4th stage cancer. Very bad. And she couldn't go out of the house. And she was stuck in the house. Her son went up to his father and said, Father, can we take the Torah out of the ark? He says, why? Well, we're going to take it out and dance around the bima. He says, no. I want to take the Torah to bring to my mother who's in bed, because she won't be able to kiss the Torah if I don't bring it to her. So this small boy spoke to his father, and the rabbi overheard what the boy was saying, and he took the Torah, and he went out of the shul, took the whole congregation following him. They lived like 2 blocks away. He went to their house. He knocked on the door. The father opened the door for them, because I guess the mother couldn't get out of bed at that point. Came into the house and danced around the mother's bed with the Torah. And the interesting thing is, this mother in this letter is telling the story and saying, I want to thank the rabbi. I want to thank my husband and I want to thank the whole congregation for thinking about me because I cannot get out of my house. I do not have a holiday in my house. I only have a holiday in bed. And I cannot move. I can't do nothing. And I don't feel like it's a holiday to me. All I know is I'm stuck with the IVs and I can't move anywhere. And she told this story. Interesting thing is, 2 days later, I thought this was a story that happened just now. 2 days later, I'm looking on COL, which is a Lubavitch news thing, and it says that the son is telling this story about his mother, and this boy now is married with children. And he says, that child was me. I was that 9-year-old boy. I am now married with my own children, and I think he had like kids like 7, 8, 9 years old already. This happened 22 years ago. And he's telling, and he says, not only that, I am the rabbi of a place in Tamaco, California, where before me I took over the job of this man. His name is Yitzi, what his last name is? Holtzberg. Yitzi Holtzberg, right? That he is it Holtzberg or Horowitz? Yitzi Horowitz, right. Horowitz, right. That he is sick with ALS. This guy, right, this guy was a shliach in this place where this boy is now the shliach there. He had to leave because he's very sick, because he can't talk. He's in bed and he only speaks with the computer. And he still, his wife and children communicate with him still with the computer. And he says, I want to let everybody know that I took over the place of this Yitzi Horowitz in his place as a rabbi because I will never forget my mother. How she, in bed, when I brought the Torah, I remember her eyes were lit up. And he says, that's why I took Yitzi's place, because I feel connected to these people that are sick. And he told the story afterwards, and it was just amazing to understand that this son took over the place of a person who was sick, which is interesting, as a rabbi. And he says, and he goes around all the time to people that are sick, and he tries to make them happy, which is amazing to see that. And you see sometimes what a person takes from the month of Tishrei. What are we going to learn from this month of Tishrei? Every single person, of course, learns something else. And this is an amazing thing that happens. So we also have problems, right? We have problems with our life and whatever. The interesting thing is nowadays, I think the stresses are a little higher. You know why? Because we have computers and we have iPhones and we can't leave the stress. The stress is there 24/7. Sometimes we need to take our iPhones and our computers and close them and put them away. And in Mirz Hashem next month actually, because we keep doing this Rosh Chodesh, we are going to start a new course, which is called Pause and Effect. It's all about the idea of Shabbat. 1 day a week, putting down our technology and not having so much stress, and taking from the Shabbos and bringing it to the days of the week, and taking from the month of Tishrei, which is the month we just passed, coming into this month of Cheshvan, into a month that doesn't have any holidays, and saying now we can go into the stresses of life. Why? Because we just got a boost. Rosh Hashanah, renewal, Yom Kippur, sanctity, Sukkot, happiness, Simchat Torah, ecstasy. We're coming to this new month now. And what's in this month? This is a special month. We have a lot of things that come into this month. The first thing in this month is Zayin Cheshvan, which is the 7th of Cheshvan. Actually, it's very interesting. The 7th of Cheshvan is a very special day. You know why? For 2 reasons. The first reason is the 7th of Cheshvan is the day that everybody that came for Tishrei to the Bet HaMikdash, that came to the temple from this month, that stayed in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem for this month, they all go home. And the furthest place, it takes them so many days that they're back home by the 7th of Cheshvan. That is the day that we start praying for rain. And also the 7th of Cheshvan, we also have a very important birthday, Margalit's birthday. So everybody should know that's her birthday, 7th of Cheshvan. Why? Because, you know why? It's the day we ask for rain, because she loves bracha, blessing. It's the day of blessing. The blessing comes down on this 7th of Cheshvan. A beautiful blessing came to us. So that's the 7th of Cheshvan. Then we have another very special day. It's called the 11th of Cheshvan. On the 11th of Cheshvan, a very important person passed away.
Rachel.
Rachel Imenu. Rachel, our mother. And Rachel is very known. If you go to her caver, it's very known for people who have a lot of problems and difficulties in their lives. They go to Rachel's caver. Oh, how interesting. My daughter is going tomorrow to Rachel's caver, even though it's not yet Yud al Cheshvan, but it's the week before. Shana. And I asked her to pray for all of us, because she's going there tomorrow. Very interesting. The caver, it's in, where is it?
Yeah.
Kever Rachel is in
Bethlehem.
Bethlehem, right. Bethlehem. It's Bethlehem, actually. It's a Christian place, right? Oh, so she's already there. She's probably already there. So she called me a few hours ago and told me that she's going there. Like maybe 7 hours ago she called me. Why? Because Rachel is known for Mivakeh al Baneha. She cries for her children. She cries for all the children that were taken in Galut, were taken in exile. She is a special mother for all of us Jews in exile. And that's why Yud Aleph Cheshvan is very important. The 11th Cheshvan is very important to us. Another thing that happened in Cheshvan.
And we can light the candle, right?
For her, right.
For her.
Right, on the 11th of Cheshvan.
When?
On the 11th of
When
Cheshvan.
is 11?
In a week and a half.
11
Швана зажигать свечи?
Да.
Okay. Then,
11 Хашван.
Cheshvan, right.
Before you can leave, you should
Yeah,
give
tell,
us the day.
yeah, okay, I will. The 20th of Cheshvan is also the Rebbe Rashab, which is the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe. No, 5th. Lubavitcher Rebbe was born in this day.
Rebbe Rashab.
Rebbe Rashab, yeah. And then Chav Zayin Cheshvan, it's when the flood ended. The 27th of Cheshvan is the day that the flood ended. The real flood ended, Noah's flood. Okay, the 27th of Cheshvan. Okay. And the first Beit HaMikdash was also finished in Cheshvan. You know how long it took them to build the first temple? How many years? Anybody know? 7 years. Very good. It took them 7 years to build the first temple. So they finished building in Cheshvan. Solomon, King Solomon's, temple.
7th Cheshvan?
Yeah, 7th of Cheshvan. No, 27th. No.
7 years.
No, it took them, not 7th of Cheshvan, it took them 7 years to build the second temple, and it was the first temple, and it was finished in the month of Cheshvan. Yeah. Which is also good. Anyway,
Is it first?
and it's also a very good time for the third Beit HaMikdash to be built. So Mitzvah Shem, we should all have the third Beit HaMikdash with Mashiach very soon, and we should be happy. We should all go together to Mashiach right now. Amen.
Amen.